All right, we are back with eFits, and I am joined by the well-loved, well-respected, and now YouTube famous JEFFRAIDER, who is in his own trailer.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it. And you've been described as the Bob Ross of EFT, so what are we going to do today, Bob?
All right. So Henrik and I had a really cool idea, like a month ago, because it's been a little while since the last one, of doing bait ships. But with Phoebe, bait ships are sort of worthless now. The 5 light year jump range is bad, jump fatigue is bad, so bait ships aren't what they used to be. So, with the announcement in the upcoming expansion Rhea of the new system Thea, which sounds cool as heck. Well, actually, Henrik, what do you know about Thea? Let's do that first.
So Thera is going to be the only named wormhole system. They're adding 101 new wormhole systems to the game. Thera is one of those, and it's the only named one. And what they are is all these new wormholes won't have any moons for people to build posses around, so they can't settle in these wormholes. They can only day trip into them. Thera is going to be different, in which they have 4 different stations by Sisters of Eve, and it's going to be with a whole bunch of high sec statics as well as wormhole connections, making it more of a intersecting point of all the wormholes, or at least that's what they've described it to be.
So yeah, everyone loves that idea. I really like it. So what I thought we'd do today is something a ship that could work well in Thera for general PvP. So a lot of options for this, but I think there's one ship that's just perfect for this, and I already kind of spoiled it by having this up, the Stratios. So I'm going to make a new setup for this puppy. It's got a lot of really cool stuff, so crossing zebras. Yeah. Cool. So what's the bonuses on the Stratios? Hey, this works now. Armor resistance bonus. Cool. Spoiler alert, gonna ignore that. 10% bonus to drone hit points and damage. That's awesome. 50% bonus to energy turret optimal range, and it's got a scanning bonus. So that's really cool. That makes this pretty sweet, and it's got a covert ops cloak. So let's start there. So we're just gonna add this covert ops cloak. Bonk. And then what? So basically, it's got a really nice slot layout of 5 lows and 5 mids. It's just like the Ishtar. It's kind of like just a slightly less powerful Ishtar in a lot of ways, but it's also got the super powerful bonus of the Covert Ops Cloak. Also, something we should look at here is the align time with no mods or anything, 4.1 seconds, which is really, really good for a cruiser hull. So this means that it's a pretty agile ship to begin with, so it's going to be kind of a perfect skirmisher. So it's got that laser bonus. Let's add some lasers. So heavy pulse is what I'm going to go for now. You use focused medium pulses, which is the next gun level down. We'll see if the heavy pulses work. So boom, 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 boom. It's got 4 slots for those. Great. And it's got that optimal range bonus. So the main thing with lasers, pulse lasers, is they get to use Scorch. And this gives us a 34 plus 5 optimal, which is just awesome. So good. But we also see it's only got 133 DPS. Maybe we'll add some heat sinks. Let's see how that works. But we also know this has a drone damage bonus. So I'm guessing... So even with 3 heat sinks, not much DPS. So we're going to just ignore heat sinks for the lasers for now. So let's try and get away with 3 drone damage amps. Boom. And we're always going to add a damage control. Pretty niche fits if you don't have a damage control. Generally, you always want to add one. And we got an extra low slot, which we'll deal with in a bit. Afterburner, is that an option for this ship? I would say probably not. Only 600 meters a second, pretty slow. So we're going to add on the meta. I guess this will be changed. CCP is doing a pretty cool thing, I think, by taking away all the weird meta levels of stuff and just adding in like maybe 2. So this is the meta for my warp drive. It's got less cap use. It's got a slightly larger cap, total cap amount hit. So if you see my cap 17, it's 2125 and drops down to 1721. A Tech 2 mic warp drive only drops down to 1764, but it takes more cap to run, so it's better to have this on. Now, since this is going to be a skirmishing ship, that's why we ignored the armor tanking bonus. I mean, this is a good ship with an armor tank. It could use an insular armor rep, that sort of thing, but I just love having lots of damage and lots of speed, so I'm just going to go ahead and shield fit this. So let's add some shield extenders on. Generally want to have 2 shield extenders if you're going to have them at all. Okay, so that doesn't quite fit. 1%. We'll deal with that in a bit. Alright, so we got 2 mid slots. Now we're going to need tackle. Okay, so I'm going to add a warp disruptor. Now, how much is this ship? 325 million. This has an optimal range bonus and it uses drones. So I think this is a ship that we definitely want to splurge on the point, and we're going to go ahead and add a Republic Fleet Warp Disruptor in. Right, and now we've got one more mid slot. Now we can add more tank. It's got 28k EHP, and that's around the EHP of a Vagabond, which is kind of the way we're going to fly this in a sense. So 28k EHP should be just fine for us because we don't want to be in scram range, we don't want to be in web range, and we don't want to really brawl with this ship. What we want to do is hold somebody at arm's length with our point and our optimal range bonus, and not take significant damage. So this is the kind of ship where you're going to be engaging somebody and then warping off if it doesn't go well for you, which is really cool. Drone bay open. So last mid slot, I mean, we can go for an invuln, okay? But look at the cap right now before we add an invuln. It's a minute 30 seconds. So that's with the lasers firing and the MWD and the point. That's not much cap. That's doable, but it's kind of close. So adding an invuln to that would drop it to a minute 17. Gives us 6k more EHP, and we haven't added rigs yet. So I think the best thing for this is going to be to add a web. Now, I just said we don't want to be in web range. So we're going to spend a little extra money on a Fed Navy web, which is one of the longest range webs. The domination's a little bit longer, but it has less of a velocity hit on the enemy. So, I think let's just have a look at the domination here. And the Fed Navy. So domination's optimal is 15 compared to the Fed Navy's 14, but it's only 50% speed hit, whereas the Fed Navy gives you the full T2 web speed hit of negative 60%. So that's what we're going to go for. And this web, we're going to be using overheated all the time. We're going to keep it pre-overheated, and we're only going to use it as a defensive web. So we're not going to let anybody get into range of us for scram range by webbing them first and then running away. So you just want this ready to web, but you don't want to use it. Like when you're shooting people, don't go into web range, basically. It's not a good idea. So there we go. So we got an 18.2 kilometer web on here, which is nice. 36 kilometer point overheated if we want. Really nice. And we're already having some fitting problems, but I'm not too worried because we can either drop one of these pulse lasers down to focus medium, or we could drop a shield extender down to a meta 4 one. We're over by 3% on CPU already, and that's something easily fixable by going to the meta 4 damage control here. Cool. All right. Now, so at the low slot, I think it's going to be a nanofiber because that'll add to the speed of the ship, so it'll put us up to 1,875 meters a second, which we can overheat to 2,600, which is really nice, especially with that 18-kilometer web. Kind of a good combo there. We're 1% over on grid still, but that's okay too because remember we're designing the ship to be used in Thea, which is a wormhole. So just for the sake of not having to rely on anybody else or an alt, we're going to drop a heavy pulse laser here. You see we're doing 133 DPS right now. Only lose 34 DPS. We get a high slot and a bunch of fitting back. So I'm going to add in a probe launcher. There's a T1 and T2. There's also the faction probe launcher, which is only 10 CPU, which we may lean on later if it makes sense. But for now, we'll just go with the T2. And we're going to use the faction scanner probes as well. So we got... this actually gets pretty good scan strength field. Let's just have a quick look at this. So, charge info, is it? Yeah, and actually... one of these ships is a Helios, yeah. So this is a Helios I just brought up. This is a fully bonused one. It's got a bonus to scanning. It's got an expanded probe launcher on it, Sisters Core scanner probes, and it's got a bunch of these scanning array upgrades. So let's just have a look here. So sensor strength 99 to 130, 0.056 to 0.07, and same scan range. So basically, we've got a pretty powerful prober in the Stratios as is. I mean, it's not as good as a Helios, but it's definitely pretty nice considering the fact that it also does damage. So there we go. So we've got this core probe launcher 2, and we're not giving up much by losing the lasers here. I'm just going to turn the lasers off. So, well, let's finish fitting the ship first. So we need a little more tank. We can see we only have 11.5% EM resist here. That's not that good. So what's that EM rig called? A medium anti-EM. And we're going to use a T2 rig here because, we're already in the 549 million range for this ship. So at this point, there's no point not to use T2 rigs. And basically, the T2 rigs are cheap enough. Like, how much does this thing cost? It only costs 6 million, so that's a no-brainer. Now let's add another couple tank rigs. These are going to be Tech 2 extenders. You see we've still got 30% thermal resist, but I just don't think it's generally worth it to plug every hole. It's better to have a little more buffer. So now we're up to 35k EHP, which is really good. Ship's basically fit right now. Now we're going to add in some drones here. So let's go for the guard 2. So you see that it has 100 bandwidth. So that means 4 heavy drones or 4 sentries or 2 geckos. We're definitely going to have geckos as well, but let's add in these guards for now. And we get a very respectable 562 DPS just from the drones. Turn those off. Let's check geckos. Add 2 of those. 616. So this is a ship that does really nice DPS. And considering that DPS can be applied from 30 kilometers away while you're pointing them, is really nice. Decent tank. And the align time is 5.3 seconds with the MWD on, which is really agile. It's really good. 3.5 seconds, which is basically frigate speed align with the MWD off. So it's really good ship for moving around. But let's just forget the drones for a quick sec here. We'll go back to the drone bay. Thea, the one thing Hendrik didn't mention about Thea is that it's a wormhole system. It's got 4 NPC stations, and they're separated by a whole lot of AUs. Okay, it's a huge system. There's apparently a 320 AU warp in there, and our warp speed is only 3 AU a second, which is kind of a problem. I've used Stratios quite a bit in non-wormhole systems, and it really feels a bit sluggish compared to a frigate or something like that. And since we can, why don't we just drop one of these extenders? Drops us down to 31k HP, still fine. I mean, still in that sort of vagabond skirmishing range. And let's go ahead and add on a hyperspatial rig here. Now, the hyperspatial rig's drawback is CPU. Bump. So now we're over by a lot on CPU. We have to start making some compromises. So where can we do this the best? I think we'll go ahead and take that free 10 CPU. You add on a scissors core probe launcher on there. Now we're only 6% over. That's not bad. These shield extenders, let's just see what's available here. We got the Caldari Navy shield extender, okay? Let's have a look at the stats real quick. So, if we see here, the Caldari Navy shield extender is exactly the same as a T2 shield extender, except it's 11 CPU less. So we can go ahead and just add that. So, price of the ship right now is 675. And we'll add this puppy on, and we're going to be at 729. What? These are 60 million now? Wow, okay. Well, they were like 20 million like last week. Whatever. That's fine. Who cares? It's 700 million ship. We're not poor. Most of us aren't poor. And now this fits. So this is basically the core fitting of this ship. It's fast. It warps pretty quick at 3.8 AU a second. And I've been very careful not to need any fitting implants, because this is the kind of ship, especially if you're going to use it in Thera or any wormhole system, where you should go ahead and use some implants. And the slot 6 implant is basically an implant that's generally used for fitting. You can add power grid or CPU with it. Since we've made some compromises in our fit, we're now able to use other 6% implants. So I normally like to do like just type 603 in EFT here, and it gives you all the 3%, right? But what's really cool is there's warp speed implants. So you can add a 610. So warp speed 610. So that puts us up to 4.1 AU a second. This implant's only about 20 million. There's also a 615 implant, which is about 150 million. I like to use these. It adds 0.2. And the cool thing is basically it will... I'm not going to lie. I'm planning with the ship never to die. That's my game plan. So I don't mind using a slightly expensive implant in there. Other things we could do would be the Ascendancy set. So that's 150 mil. If we were to add mid-grade Ascendancies here, which I think is also not that crazy to do, that's only about 500 million for the whole set, and now up to 5.1 AU a second. So I'm just going to say go ahead and do it. You know, like, that is a cheap set of implants there. It's only 500 million for a pirate set of implants, mid-grades, which are the old low grades. And you see it does just wonders for our ship. This is now a ship that warps about like a T1 frigate, I believe. Let's just check that real quick. Hey, oh, actually, I didn't say it. I should have said it earlier, but thanks CCP for putting us in that trailer. It's an awesome trailer, and me and Hendrik are both super pumped about it. Anyways, now we see the 5 AU a second. So this thing warps faster than a T1 frigate now. And it's a cruiser, and it does a lot of DPS. So let's do that, and now since we've gone this far, we might as well add some other implants. So the 7% or the slot 7 implant. Let's go for evasive maneuvering. Brings the agility up a little bit more. 803. Now with the slot 8 implant, there's another implant called the Zor's navigation hyperlink. Just gonna turn on the MWD here. 1875. So this brings up to 1956 or 2800 meters a second overheated. That's a good one to have. Let's check the 9s. I don't really know offhand if there's a good 9%. Oh yeah, the gunnery. Now, there's 2 gunnery ones in here. There's a gunnery and a surgical strike, okay? I think we'll go with the surgical strike if we're going to do it. It adds damage. They both add about the same damage, but gunnery adds damage in the rate of fire, whereas surgical strike adds it into the volley. And on a ship that uses capacitor for its guns, it's kind of nice to not have the higher rate of fire. It's nicer to just get the extra 3% damage in the volley itself. But here's this high-speed maneuvering one as well. So I'm kind of thinking, at this point, let's see if it makes sense. That's 11 seconds of cap time. I don't think so. You know, we've already got 3 minutes with the guns off. That's cool. I think we're going to go ahead and add that surgical strike one. And the 10 implant slot, there's really not much here. There's the large gun ones, there's missile ones, there's ice harvesting ones, mining ones. The only one that could possibly be applicable would be the hull upgrades one, which adds armor. We're not armor tanking, and I think you just save the 20 million here. Don't worry about the 90 extra. So just go ahead and leave that empty for now. Cool. So what do we got here? We've got a really fast warping ship, decent EHP, not brawl EHP, that's skirmish EHP. And we've got a ship with an 18-kilometer web, a 30-kilometer point. It warps quick. You know, it's beautiful. It probes. Right. And we've got drone damage. So the cool thing with the Stratios as well is it's got a huge, huge cargo bay on it, 550 meters. So that means we're going to do a few things here. We're going to add a mobile depot in. So this way, when you're skirmishing, say you've got guards out or whatever, you can just abandon them, and we can we can load more drones in a safe spot using a mobile depot here. Just drag that puppy in. Also, shout out to the EFT dude for letting us drag other stuff in the cargo bay. It's really cool. And if anyone from CCP is watching this, can you also make it so when we copy stuff, it keeps whatever's in the cargo as well? Because that'd be super nice. Right, so mobile depot takes up 50. And then, let me just show you how many guards we can add in here. Boop. Set them out. So we've got, what, 475 meters left? We can add 19 extra sentry drones in here. Now, don't make them all guards. Guards are really good drones. If you have a look at their optimal right here, what is it? Optimal's 30. That's the exact range we want to be fighting in. So guards are a really good choice. Damage type's thermal, which is the weak link on about 75% of ships in EVE, I'm just going to say, with no data to back that up. All shield tanking ships don't like thermal damage. And as you saw, especially with my ship, I patched the EM hole, but I left the thermal hole. So thermal would be the best damage type to use against myself as well. Also, MR-T2 ships have a really bad problem with thermal damage, so the guard is a really good choice. And we've still got a room for 2 more sets of sentries in here. I'm going to go ahead and add them. I would add in bouncers and curators, and generally speaking, I like to have warrior 2s, but basically that would make us break up a set of drones, and they're not that needed. I've had really good luck with this ship, webbing frigates, and just letting the sentries take them out. As long as you don't drop the sentries right at 0, and then get tackled by a frigate at 0, and then try and hit it, you're probably good. So just go ahead and add in these types of drones. We're not going to use the Caldari drone, the Warden. It's the longest range one. We probably won't be able to take advantage of it because it's 68-kilometer locking range, so not much point there. And also, if you do get tackled, go ahead and web the thing. Switch your heavy pulse lasers to conflag, which is the short-range ammo. Or actually, if you get tackled by a frigate, you want to go multi-freak because it's better tracking. And then go ahead and just launch the geckos. And let me tell you, geckos hurt. They hit so hard on frigates, especially if they're webbed. If you get tackled by just a lone frigate, go ahead and launch those geckos and just watch it get blapped. It won't take very long at all. Yeah, and in your mobile depot, or sorry, in your cargo bay, you want to go ahead and, you could even add another drone. There's room for 20 extra sentries in the cargo. But go ahead and just make it a mix of these drones. I wouldn't carry an extra set of geckos. They're pretty tanky. They're tough to kill, especially on this ship, which gets a drone hit point bonus. Let's have a look. Where's the thing here? So it's got 4,800 structure. It's got basically EHP of more than a T1 frigate. So go ahead and just not worry about having extra geckos. I just have lots of a mix of these. So probably you want to do like 8 guards, 8 bouncers, 4 curators, something like that. Something in that range, and some paste and that sort of stuff. Yeah, and just I guess I'm pretty close to being done here. But final note on the guns: you don't want to use these guns when you're fighting anybody if you can help it, because you see it really hurts the cap to use them, and it doesn't add too much more damage. You see, we go from 560 to, I'm guessing, 690. So it's only an extra 100. Oh no, it wouldn't even be that much because we're going to use Scorch. So it only adds 100 DPS, hurts your cap, and you really want the capacitor to get away if things go bad. So what I normally do with this ship is when I point something, I normally keep it range at 20 kilometers on them, or 25. And that's generally out of the damage range for a lot of things you'll tackle. If they are hitting you, you want to start orbiting at about 20, 25. That keeps them back. And if they start burning at you, your keeping at range will be good. And you don't want to have the MWD on all the time. You just want to be watching their velocity to see when it starts picking up, you kick yours up. And you've also got that 18-kilometer web to stop them. One other cool thing is when, let's say you tackle something in a belt, I don't know, say of Dominic's or something, a battleship. If he puts drones on you, you can flip your guns on, and with the Imperial Navy multi-freak, okay? Put the web on the drones, or I'd probably use conflag on, depends on the size of the drones. If it's warriors, use multi-freak. If it's bigger drones, use conflag. And you web the drones and shoot the drones with your guns and make sure they're webbed while you're still doing damage with your guards to the thing. So use these guns basically as point defense, which is something that I always thought sounded lame, but it actually works on this ship. It's an actual concept on the ship where you use these guns just to shoot little things that are near you. And you go ahead and use Scorch if you've got the thing dead to rights. You're not going to have to make a quick exit. But the cool thing with Thera is it's a wormhole, so there's delayed local. So you'll never really know when you have to get out. It's not like local will explode. You'll have to be smashing your scanner a lot. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to cover here. Not really, no. I'd fit the ship just like this. I think it's a really good fit. I think it does a lot of good stuff in wormholes and anywhere else. You can use this to PvP and nullsec just as well. The only thing you do in nullsec is add on the extra gun and probably make another fitting compromise somewhere. Yeah, you probably did mess around a little bit, but it's doable. Yeah, so I think that's about it. You got anything else, Hendrik?
No, the only thing I got to ask you is, you mentioned prices, and this is probably breaking around a billion?
Well, it's 759 million ISK for the fit. The implants would be about 600 million. So, it's not a super cheap ship, but it's definitely doable, especially if you've got this mind of, I'm not going to die in it. Like, I just refuse to die in this ship if I can help it. I don't want to get into a position where it looks like I'm going to die. This is a ship for quick ganks, for damage mitigation, basically. Yeah.
All right. So that's it for this episode of Eve Fits with JEFFRAIDER. Thanks for stopping by, Jeff. And as usual, you can always check us out on crossingzebras.com. And you can also see Jeff in the new Eve trailer, This is Eve.